Since I was born, they criminal me down. Another misfit kid, another burned out town. I never played by the rules. I never really cared. My nasty reputation takes me everywhere. Well, now I look and see it's not only me. So many others have stood where I stand. We are the young, so raise your hands. They call us problem child. We spend our lives on trial. We walk an endless mile. We are the youth gone wild. We stand and we won't fall. We're the one and one for all. The writing's on the wall. We are the youth gone wild. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, deep in our underground bunker, in the bowels of this layer, standing for truth, justice, and apparently burning this city to the ground.
Apparently. Which city are we talking about?
All of them. Yeah. All of them. We're a roving band of miscreants, vagabonds, whatever. We're going from target to target and just starting stuff on fire. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Yeah. I'm a little on edge today.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, to be honest. I'm trying to think of... I know that song.
Yeah.
I do know it.
That's good. You should.
Youth Gone Wild.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give me a hint. Do I get hints? What does the letter of the band start with?
Really?
All right. God.
You can get this. Think a little bit. While we're
yeah, okay. Think a little
through.
bit while we're processing. Jay,
yes.
I want to bring up something really, really quickly.
Yes.
There's this thing on my phone.
Oh.
Called an app. Now, I know I've discovered these.
With a feather.
I know over the 3.5 years we've done this show, I've discovered this a couple of times. But there's this Purple Podcast app that you just showed me about 5 minutes ago. We're on there.
Yes, we are.
I just want all the audience to know that this purple thing on your phone.
If you have an iPhone, I don't know that it's purple. If you have a
if you have a
Android.
flip phone or a
flip phone, you definitely don't have a purple thing.
Android. Okay.
Yes.
They still sell those Androids?
Yes, that's a good share of the market. Yes.
Oh, is it?
I mean, you and I are iPhone people, but yes.
I only got an iPhone because I qualified for it for something. I don't even remember.
That's your Obama phone?
I think I was sick. The day I went in there to get it, if I remember right.
Okay.
And I gave somebody SARS or something probably that day, but I was not feeling well, and I think he talked me into it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So this thing that looks like a person with a dot, you used to call it a microphone. That's a pretty ugly microphone.
Well.
But if you click this thing here, you can browse around.
Yeah.
I mean, Jay, there's lots of things on there.
There are lots of things on there, yes.
And you can find the Community Solutions Podcast on there.
You can find that.
Is there music too?
You were what, going out to the Libsyn site, right? To go listen to it?
Yes. Okay. I was going out there, and I have the secret passcode to get on there, and then I was listening from there. So that's what I was doing. So I don't have to do that. Is there music on there?
There are probably music podcasts.
Why is the Gaga ladies on the front here?
There probably is then. There are probably a number of music-based podcasts. There are a lot of music
Do they sing or do they talk about music?
They talk about music, I'm sure. I've got a couple myself where they talk about music. Eddie Trunk deals with a lot of the older rock and roll acts and stuff.
Eddie Trunk.
Yeah, also a lot of music business podcasts out there, and I subscribe to a number of those, being as I'm in that business.
Hold on.
I mean, not Governor Walz is governor, but normally I'm in that business.
Skid Row.
Yes. That's it.
There we go. 19 and a quarter.
Chalk another one up.
All right.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm good.
See?
You only took the first 10 minutes of the show for me to think of it.
Hey, you're kind of right in that Joe Biden pocket.
I even got, I'm getting a B plus in a public school. Now listen, I am on a roll. That's like 9 out of the last 50.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I could make the Detroit Tigers with that batting average. I mean, you definitely could. I'm not quite to Euchre. I'm still getting up to Euchre. Now, Jay, before
we're not talking about Alan Trammell tigers.
No, we're talking about the tigers now, not the good old days.
Right. Okay.
One of my favorite. Again, I know I mentioned this on a previous episode. Don't know which one. We have so many. There's just so many. Jay.
This is 163. So so there's a lot.
But I go on there. There's so many.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. 1984, and I've told you this before.
Yeah.
Was the first World Series I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tigers won it. That was the Alan Trammell, Kirk Gibson, Jack Morris, Lou Whitaker team. Same team the Twins beat in '87, basically. Mm-hmm. And so there's a special place in my heart, and I loved Magnum P.I., and he always wore a Tigers hat. So this is the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
An old Tiger Stadium, too. Maybe it's not the same now. I've been to the Comerica Field. Mm-hmm. Beautiful park. In just the middle of I don't think much of Detroit. But anyhow.
Yes.
So I have to mention something. So I love the Tigers for no reason other than that. I got to mention something. I found on YouTube. I was researching funny Jesse Ventura quotes.
That wasn't on an app, too, was it?
No, that was on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't know how to do it.
There is a YouTube app. Just
no.
Yeah.
I don't like that, though. I don't like that. And what came up but a 1998 debate between Skip Humphrey, Jesse Ventura, and Norm Coleman.
Wow.
Now, I have to hand it to the moderators because they were pretty good at it. Jeff Passelt from Channel 9 was one. Pat Miles, who used to be on, I think she was on Channel 4.
Yeah.
It was pretty good, but I could watch that. Most debates I can't stand.
Right.
It's all about 1 minute sound bites, and it's predetermined questions, predetermined answers. This was like they were all sitting down on like a couch. Mm-hmm. Humphrey, and then Jesse was in the middle, and he's like 8 inches taller than Coleman or Humphrey. It was a little goofy. But they sat like on a couch, and they were kidding. I'll send it to you at some point here. And they were just kind of having questions, but more conversational, not the stand at the podium and talk with your fist or whatever kind of stuff. And it was an entertaining debate, and it was a very fun debate to watch. The kind of thing that you just today, and maybe having a third-party candidate there made it better. Mm-hmm. But one of the questions posed to the candidates was, if you could vote for yourself, who would you vote for? Okay. Wow. Now, they all tried to not, even Jesse Ventura tried to not answer it. Finally, when Skip Humphrey was pressed, he said Norm Coleman. When Ventura was pressed, he said Ken Pentel, who was the Green Party candidate.
Ken Pentel from Oregon.
Yeah,
right?
and Norm Coleman said that he'd end up writing it himself. And it was a funny, lighthearted debate. Jesse, I think, was more conservative then, and it was a true debate among very different ideas. I can see now why Mr. Ventura won. Mm-hmm. Because Humphrey and Coleman, while they were respectful toward one another, and they were, just stood there and attacked each other, while Jesse just sat there and did his rocking in the chair. And but he probably won it. I mean, if I had to give it to somebody, I had to give it to him. Yeah. So go back. I'll find it, Jay, and I'll send it to you. Go back, just look 1998 Minnesota gubernatorial debate, and there's like 5 of them will come up. But this one where they're all sitting like on a sofa. I don't know how to describe it.
Maybe I'll have to link that on the blog, too, for our listeners.
I'll find it here tonight somewhere. So that just brought back because I remember that election so when I went to vote, it was at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember if I was still in school. I might have been. And 1998, I probably was. I was 21. And it was me.
You were a senior?
No, I was like a sophomore in my third try. Yeah. Well, remember, I told you how high school, the best 7 years of my life.
Yeah, they're doctors.
Doesn't matter.
No, I'm just kidding you.
Best 7 years of my life, high school. Yes. And there were like me and 5 old ladies. The whole in line to vote. Mm-hmm. The whole line smelled like mothballs. And then to the left of me was a line to register to vote. Now, I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand same-day registration back when I was 21.
Right.
Okay, I'm like, oh, what is this? Why are there two separate? Are you registered to vote? Well, yeah, I voted here last. Oh, okay. Well, then the person gave me my ballot, and I went in. And there were probably 20 people in that line. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Nobody in the history of Minnesota has benefited more from same-day registration than Jesse the Mind Ventura. He never would have won. No offense on Jesse, because he didn't do anything wrong. But, I mean, he never would have won without same-day registration. It would have never happened.
Right.
So, which I'm not a big fan of, but, it was that day, definitely, he won it on that. He would have done well, but he wouldn't have won. Now, Jay, we have a breaking thing we're going to talk about tonight. Not exactly what we planned.
Right.
But we want to foreshadow a few episodes upcoming.
Right. And we've had a lot of really good shows lately. Excluding the episode with David Strom, we haven't really delved deep into analysis on the show lately, and it's been a lot of here's this story, here's that story, here's this story, and we're as we release them, we're linking the articles out on the blog, we're backing up our work so that you can see exactly what we're talking about, like we do when we do our analytic shows, and we've got more of those coming, right?
Of course.
Of course.
The big thing, and just so people know what they're missing during this coronavirus thing, government's going forward like normal.
Oh, yes.
And we did kind of allude to a bonding bill. Well, you and I have been studying it. Mm-hmm. The $2 billion bonding bill proposed by the House, which is House File 4677. I can't remember the Senate file. Doesn't matter.
Right.
And then the conservative $1 billion bonding bill. So we're between 1 and 2 now. That's the conservative position. And I'm going to, since I suck at prognosticating, I'm just going to keep going here.
Okay.
Maybe I'm kind of hoping.
Raise your batting average like you have with the songs at the beginning of the show.
I'm not only below euchre level in prognosticating. I mean, I've got to get 5 straight to get to 0. That's about where I am right now. But because I don't want my prognostication to be right.
Yeah.
I'm very confident that I am right. Okay, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like
something to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like here's what I don't want to happen, which means it's probably what will happen.
That's about the way it works for me.
Yeah. You're going to see the legislature adjourned, okay, on May 21st, was it? Or sometime last week.
Yeah.
And Governor Walz emergency powers are up on June 12th.
Yes.
A special session is going to be called.
It has to by Constitution.
Exactly.
Minnesota Constitution, yeah.
And he wants a bonding bill.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already said he's not willing to give up emergency powers for the bonding bill. Now,
it's
that
not
may
his
be
choice. It's the legislature's choice.
Right, and that may be a power play. It may be we all know this is the thing about the state government, why I hate both parties, because they're not doing this in public. They can go talk behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms, and this is how a bonding bill gets done. Go back. Capital investment bill. Okay, are you happy there, Melissa Hortman? I'm sorry, I called it by its proper name. However, I'm going to make some bold predictions.
Okay.
June 2nd is when filing is done for state offices. Now, municipalities, it depends. Yeah. Some still go into July and August. I don't want to run down why. We'll do that a different time. But any Democrat worried about being primaried, on June 3rd, will know whether they are or not.
Right.
And I think that could make them more or less likely to follow the governor's line. I think they've been afraid to sort of break off, unless they're really worried about the reelection. Mm-hmm. And some of them are, no doubt about it. Don't forget what they say in public. Trust me, folks. Look at their actions, not their words. And I think there's I'm going to call it a 1 in 4 that doesn't get extended beyond June 12th. Mm-hmm. Now, there's problem with that. And that's that, like Wisconsin, everything would just drop. And I don't think Democrats are at that point that they will let that go.
No.
But again, you go another 30 days and you're going to have 30 more days of F this, F that. We're going to open, chaos.
Yeah.
Like what we have with the churches and things like that. So I think he's on a time limit here. And I'm going to predict that it gets extended. Okay. That Republicans cave and there's a bonding bill closer to $2 billion than to $1 billion. Here's why I say that.
Best of both worlds. Wow.
Here's why I say that.
Yeah.
Because I think enough of them will get bought off. I think enough of them will go, I tried. This is what they'll sell.
Right.
It wasn't as much as the Democrats wanted. So that's a cut, right?
It was more than I wanted.
Yeah.
Well, when does that matter?
0 was what I wanted.
Yeah. Same here.
And I think enough of them. Remember, you need a supermajority. You need 60% in both houses, so Republicans can kill it. I mean, they can kill it completely.
Absolutely.
But I'm just telling you,
It won't.
Senator Gazelka's already said there's going to be a bonding bill, meaning there's a deal somewhere, and they're trying to figure out how to save face. And that's how I read that. So I think you're going to have a bonding bill closer to 2 than to 1, and Republicans will try to sell that as, again, giving nobody a reason to vote Republican. And but I think Democrats will be trepidatious about the next 30 days after that. It may end then. It may end in July, because I just don't. I think the longer this goes, it only takes 6 Democrats in the House, and they're not going to have that being in session, having the majority people on their butts all the time, threatening a primary, threatening to withhold funding, withhold an endorsement.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that come July or August. So I think there's a chance it goes in June. I don't think so, though. I think we're looking at about July 10th for the emergency powers to be voted down finally.
Well, we'll see.
Now, that's still a ways away. I mean, a lifetime can happen in the next 6 weeks, as we found out. So
We will see. They may try to go further than that.
well, remember, they have to do it 30 days at a time. So
Right.
the issue has to constantly get revisited. And I think,
But here's what we're looking at. Look at the calendar and what's coming up. The governor just said no summer camps, no fun of any kind, don't look at each other, don't breathe on stuff, don't think about things. And he's not going to want to let go of that. You let go of that in the middle of the summer, you might have camps starting to open up because there's no emergency powers holding them closed anymore.
Or demanding 50% or anything like that.
And with school coming up again in September, is he going to want to let go of those powers before he has a say on what the schools do?
I don't know, but he's not going to have a choice if it gets voted down. Ultimately,
Right.
it isn't up to him.
Right.
He has to sell that. But again, part, I think, of the frustration, and I think Dems are starting to feel it too, is there's no date, there's no plan, there's no criteria that's out there that anybody can point to.
Right.
There's no, people are ignoring the what they're saying anyhow. So I think, again, and you have to have support of law enforcement. And there's a myth out there that the governor controls law enforcement. He doesn't control squat.
He doesn't.
And you've got city after city after city passing stand down orders.
Yep.
You got sheriffs who come out and said, I'm going to go catch criminals. I'm not going to go, somebody wants to cut hair, I'm not going to go in there and police that. I mean, you've got a few who are going to do it no matter what, but you have
Minneapolis,
some
St.
that
Paul.
aren't.
Yeah.
So how rapidly he loses control of this, that's why I say if he was more reasonable about the opening, and all the casinos are open, I don't know how he holds on to this for another 4 months. Now,
Depends on his party.
having said that, the
Yes.
Department of Education can take the lead and put out decrees. They don't need emergency powers to do that.
Right.
Unfortunately, school boards don't have the control that a lot of cities and counties
Right.
do.
And that's under the governor.
Yeah, and a lot of the funding is state, not local. A lot of, they're not self-sufficient like a lot of cities are, not quite, but they're close enough where the threats aren't going to matter. So I think it's going to be ugly. I really think it's going to be ugly. I really do. But again, I lay it at the feet of the governor. He has not worked with leaders on either side.
No.
He just is working with this small little, he's just kind of absent right now, as we'll get into. He continues to be absent on other issues as well. Now, Jay, foreshadowing another show.
Yes.
States of emergency.
Oof.
It's interesting, the statutes on a municipality declaring a state of emergency and the procedures to that. And how it's tied to follow the money.
That's strange, isn't it?
But that's a future episode, right? We're not going to give it all away here.
Right.
But a couple of future shows, folks. Bonding, and you and I are going to focus more on the local pork stuff like we did last year or the year before. And states of emergency for local governments, the procedure to that, and the, I would argue, questionably written statutes around it.
Right. Well, you have a governor, though, that's propping that up. But, I mean, it'll go into what we talk about with, a specific city and kind of a governor in hiding.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Jay, there's no getting around what's going on right now in Minneapolis and everywhere else, it seems. I mean, it might be out the window from us pretty soon. We're not in our underground layer. We're in our layer with windows. The violence and all that going on around this case. This what's the guy's name who died of Floyd?
Yes, George Floyd.
Floyd, okay. And I know probably everybody has seen the tape of that. I certainly did, and I was... it was pretty hard to watch. It was pretty... I think the conduct was indefensible. I have seen... the one thing I will say is I didn't see any evidence of it being racially charged. At least I didn't see. It is hard to say.
Motivations, unless there's
That's
epithets
true.
or things that.
And I didn't hear any of that, so I don't know. But I think obviously the conduct was totally unacceptable, and I think it's a matter of time before we see some arrests made, and they should be made. If anybody, I mean, there's just no excuse for that conduct.
Right.
What's happened since is equally inexcusable.
Yes.
The actions of our leaders are beyond incompetent. Beyond, I've been trying to piece together, and you and I talked off camera about this. Off air. We're not on camera. I got a face for radio.
Right.
About, the worst governor in the world to me is the governor of Michigan.
Pretty much.
I just think she's just a witch. Okay. Our governor's, he's trying to get up there. Okay. Now, he's not, he doesn't have, the governor of Michigan's got that smart-ass mouth and that Amy Klobuchar smirk, that Chuck Schumer smirk that I just can't stand. And I think she's just awful, a disgusting, despicable human being. Having said that, the governor here does not share those qualities.
No.
But his incompetence level is... If we had no governor right now, we might have a better situation than if we'd had one. Because I'm going to tell you that I have been following him on Tweetering.
Oh.
And I made some comments recently about his stupidity. Yesterday's press conference, I'm going yesterday, the 27th of May, where him, the lieutenant governor, our just wonderful attorney general, spoken, in my opinion, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, encouraged not rioting, but I think they fueled the flames of passion and anger, which were already there and justifiably so.
Yes.
Okay? But they didn't do anything to quell them yesterday. And remember, a governor has a responsibility. He has a responsibility to everybody, not just the people who voted for him. He has a responsibility that justice is served. He has a responsibility to see that and the Attorney General, too. They're the two chief law enforcement officers in the state, whether we like them or not. Mm-hmm. And they have a job to ensure a fair trial, to ensure innocence until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. The people who get arrested have a right to confront their accusers. There's a lot of things that have to happen now.
Right.
And when I see a governor tweet, and I'm going to quote this tweet here. I'm going to find it. I probably should already have it.
Probably.
Won't be hard to find.
No. Well, and this is the thing. I mean, his quotes, his tweets should be brought up, because how many times have we heard about President Trump's tweets?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so whatever he says should be held just as accountable.
You take this.
Yeah.
Our state watched George Floyd's humanity get erased. Our feelings of anger, anguish, and disillusionment are justified. Now, that sounds somewhat harmless.
Right.
But he said this as the rioting began. Okay, yesterday. I mean, he was saying these things as this was going. Wow. He sat down. Where's he been? He's been nowhere. Sat down and watched buildings get lit on fire, watched stores get bashed in, things get stolen, people on wheelchairs getting thrown off of them. And this governor sits back and tweets.
Yeah, and to be accurate here, according to Hennepin County Police and Fire Monitoring. Quick recap of the last 24 hours. Over 400 businesses looted, vandalized citywide. 16 buildings burned, 4 shootings, 7 stabbings, resulting in 1 death, with St. Paul erupting now. These numbers will go up dramatically.
I don't even know how to react to that.
Well, neither does our governor, because he didn't call in the National Guard till today.
Yes, and he called in 200
later
troops.
Today.
We have 200 troops, by the way, for 2 cities that are about 600,000 people.
Yes, and there are thousands of people out in the streets.
And not to mention the suburbs. Mm-hmm. Here we go again. Here's some more. This is, I mean, hard hitting from the governor. It's time to rebuild. Rebuild the city, rebuild our justice system, rebuild the relationship between law enforcement and those they're charged to protect. George Floyd's death should lead to justice, systematic change, not more death and destruction. Well, there's a harsh statement. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's tough, Governor. I mean, gee. Well, boy, you can tell the people out there are scared of you.
Yeah. That's the thing. They're leaving it to the people of the city to defend their own.
Yes, and by the way, last night, Wednesday, the chief of police in Minneapolis stood down the police, saying that the situation for the police was, quote, too dangerous. Yeah. Now, stop and think about that for a second. Canada is invading the United States.
Yes.
And the president would come up, forget who it is, comes out and says, you know what? I can't stop the invasion. It's too dangerous for our troops to go try to stop the invading army. Yeah. Well, isn't that the equivalent?
Well, and you wonder why. We're
going to let them. We're going to let them do it.
I don't know if you saw this, but they had sent. Was it last night or today that I saw this? Anyways, I did see it. This isn't hearsay. They sent a whole bunch of Minneapolis police officers out to meet this throng of people that were rioting, holding their bicycles. So they have their bicycles in front of them. The rioters would step forward, the police would step back, and I'm not disparaging the police. I am questioning why the police chief did not send them out there with riot gear.
Yeah,
like you have
exactly.
seen when there are other riots. They have their shields, they have, no, these are
Helmets.
police officers holding bicycles
Well,
with tear gas.
well,
Some of them have tear gas.
Well, it was active living. They had to have active living while they were out there. By the way, aren't we spreading the coronavirus right now? I mean, what happened to that?
Yeah. All of a sudden, these protests are okay, but forget 10 people showing up to church, or
Yeah, the attorney general will jail a business owner who tries to open. And if you want to throw bricks, I heard that there were people dropping bricks off of bridges on Highway 94. That was something that was reported on somewhere. I can't remember.
I haven't
probably
seen
shouldn't
that.
say that if I don't say it.
I haven't seen that. Crime Watch Minneapolis said that 50 motorcycles an hour ago from when we're recording this showing up at Cub Foods in North Minneapolis. They are with the group helping to keep order.
Yeah, they need to bring in.
And that was on the police dispatch. So we're sending in the Hells Angels, and that's who it is.
Why not? They're probably
they were
better.
identified somewhere else. We're sending in Hells Angels to help citizens keep order in their own communities because the police aren't being allowed to do it. Whoever's giving the orders is telling them to stand down, and I don't get it.
And I want to mention something, too. This is important. The original protest was peaceful.
Yes.
In fact, at the 3rd Precinct today,
Yeah.
there was a protest peacefully.
Right.
There were people making speeches, and which freedom of assembly, freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
I don't have to agree with what they're saying, but they have every
Doesn't
right
matter.
to say
They
it.
have every right to be there and say it.
So those original folks were not the people who were doing the looting. That is, I want to make that distinction, though, because it's kind of like, there's a protest in Michigan, and all of a sudden 2 jackasses grab guns and storm the Capitol. Well, that doesn't disqualify the points of all the other people who were out there peacefully protesting. So we have to be careful that we aren't overlumping people together. Now, here's my question. Jay, you watch something like this, and it's very easy for something like this to get out of hand. You and I lived through the riots in Los Angeles, which seemed to go on forever. I mean, that seemed to be just a weeks-long thing.
Yeah.
And I was too young and naive. I don't recall the how that ended or ultimately what happened there. But I'm going to tell you that 200 National Guard troops, as much as I love our men and women who serve, doesn't seem like, at what point do you, I don't know a good way to phrase this. What point do you take the offense? I mean, what does it mean to have the National Guard out there maintaining order? What are they doing?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Are they protecting businesses? Are they blocking off traffic? Are they, at what point does it become, who's going to shoot first? Lexington Green here.
Yeah.
Who's going to shoot first?
Well, and I'm sorry, this stuff just keeps coming in.
it's okay.
Same group, same thing here. Hennepin County Police and Fire Monitoring. Protesters have breached the front door of 3rd Precinct.
Yeah, rioters. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's not good.
No.
I mean, there's going to be...
No, they are inside the 3rd Precinct.
Some of them aren't going to come out.
Yeah. Both the 1st and 3rd Precincts are under siege, according to this. So
at what point does this erupt into, a mini civil war here? Because, I mean, you can't deploy troops and then have them just stand there. What are they doing?
Right. Yeah, I mean, St. Paul Fire being attacked by rock throwers.
Yeah, people are firefighters
Fire.
trying to put out fires. We're getting attacked, I know.
These are firefighters. They don't arrest anybody.
Now, let's bring it back. Let's give a political element to bring this back.
Let's do it,
because I watched their little twerp, little snowflake mayor, who is way in over his head. He's in over his head, period.
Well, remember, this is the guy when Betsy Hodges was not radical enough for Minneapolis, this is a guy they went and found and promoted to take her place. He is there because these radicals wanted Jacob Frey in office. He is their man.
So, having said that,
yes.
But again, like I said with Governor Walz, there's a responsibility that goes above and beyond who puts you in office. I mean, is the mayor that much a nut job that he's just going to stand by? And I mean, look, the businesses and citizens that are getting their houses burned down or places of businesses bashed in, they're his constituents too.
Absolutely.
So where is the loyalty to them?
And a lot of those business owners in that part of town, when we're talking Chicago and Lake, are minorities.
Yes, there's a lot of minority business.
A lot.
Not that it matters.
No.
It's not okay no matter what.
No, it's not. But the fact that they're crying about racism and they're torching and vandalizing and looting the businesses of other minority business owners, it's just a level of hypocrisy that...
Well, I mean, again, let me back up a second. Okay, I want to talk about, it amazes me, and I wish I could pinpoint why. I wish I could put out a master plan to how to change this. But it seems to me minorities have been voting. You know, inner cities have been run by one party in this country for about 3 generations now or longer.
All right.
And when minorities complain in these big cities about how bad they're being treated or how racist everything, although we've certainly changed the definition of what's racist, I sit there and I often wonder, who are you talking about? Your mayor is Democratic. Your school boards are Democratic. Your state legislators are Democratic. Your congressperson's Democratic. It seems to me a different party of any kind ought to be able to come in there and sweep any election held in those cities. How do these folks why is it that we've seen these big cities do nothing but deteriorate? And I'm not just talking about Minneapolis, okay? I'm talking about New York.
Big city.
Talking about Detroit. You're talking about L.A. You name your big Chicago, which is always
Portland.
Yeah,
and that's not that big.
Yeah, I know. And Chicago's always kind of been the Wild West. But St. Louis, we see this in every big city, whether it's housing, education. None of these problems are getting solved.
Right.
And yet the same party, the same folks who say the same damn things keep getting put into office. Now, if I'm in the minority community, which I'm not, but I'm a guy, Jay, who in my lifetime has shifted my political views. You know, I was raised Democratic, became independent, became conservative, and is kind of leaning back independent right now. I don't really consider myself part of a party right now.
Yeah.
And probably won't be. When I run for governor, it'll be as an independent. So, 2026. So, you know, the question becomes, I mean, what's it going to take to get, you know, to get that message in? Forget Republican, Democrat for a minute. Because local elections shouldn't be about that, even though we know they are. Why is it that these issues never get solved? Yet, the same folks keep getting elected all the time.
Yeah.
Where you get one more radical after another.
Right.
I mean, you go from Martin Sabo to Keith Ellison to Omar.
Right.
You go from Ryback to Betsy to French Fry.
Yes.
Why is it that it's almost like you're going the wrong way? You're going I mean, why can't the sensible person who's maybe not affiliated with a party, not endorsed by some stupid union, Why is it that nobody can break that force field?
Well,
Is it just that nobody's trying it? Republican Party sure doesn't.
Well, they put people up to run,
Right, but that's not.
They never make it past, and especially now when you have something like, ranked choice voting, it makes it near impossible. Let's pick the most 3 popular Democrats, and we'll let them run against each other rather than.
I think there's some truth to that. I think that's also an excuse.
Yeah.
I think Republicans have just written off the inner cities and say, okay, we can win the majority in the House by getting the suburbs and the outstate. The hell with Minneapolis and St. Paul. I think that attitude is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's shared by everybody.
No.
But I mean, I think back to all the rallies Jeff Johnson held in Minneapolis and all the rallies that Karen Housley held. And I'm trying to think of their presence even in the inner suburbs. I don't really recall it. So, if you're not there to give your message, forget what party you're from. Because, I mean, like I said, Martin Sabo to Keith Ellison to Omar is a pretty same party, but a pretty Martin Sabo looks sensible. I mean, if that's that's a problem with me. I never voted for him, and so
me neither.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, but it's almost like there's no room even there. But here's the thing: I'm going to credit Rush Limbaugh. I see the Reverend Jackson and the Reverend Sharpton show up to town. And you know what I'd ask them? I'd go up to those two and I'd say, excuse me, in your 50 years of I'll use civil rights in air quotes here, name one problem you've solved.
Yeah.
Can you name one problem they've solved?
No.
We know what the problems are in the inner city minority communities. It's drugs, it's gangs, it's broken families, it's people not graduating high school. Name one thing Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson have done to change that.
Yeah. No.
So until those underlying issues, I mean, people talk about inequality, unequal. I'm all for equal opportunity, not equal outcome. But it isn't equal opportunity right now. And there are socioeconomic, we can't deny stuff like that. There are.
Yes.
But I always say to this, what are you doing to change it?
Right. Because I'll tell you this, there are a lot of minorities that do live out in the suburbs. And I don't talk about just the first-string suburbs, Crystal, Robbinsdale, things like that.
People of all colors live everywhere.
Everywhere.
Come on, let's just say it.
They do. And
different
out in
percentages,
Medina,
but
out in, but yes, they do.
You make it in this world, okay? The world doesn't care what color you are. They really don't. I mean, you could make the case everything's not 100% fair. It's not going to be.
Yeah, and there will always be one or two jerks that are racist.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And there is still a boys' club at some places. It's true. But much less than it used to be, even in our lifetimes.
Absolutely.
I think that's a sad excuse. I think ultimately what has to change is the drug culture, and it's not just minorities. Anybody can get hooked on drugs, but the gangs, the unplanned pregnancies, those kind. I mean, look, if you're 17 and you're pregnant, and or you're an expected father, and you got no high school diploma, you don't have a chance.
Right.
Your life is going to be tough. Period.
But that's why they sell Planned Parenthood so heavily.
Okay, but again, what you're doing is encouraging that behavior.
Exactly.
You're saying
which is
here,
wrong.
you get free stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite of what we need. So but again, you're talking about a one-party city. You're talking about civil rights leaders who all say the same thing. Who's getting that message to these constituents here? I'm sure there are minority families working their butts off.
Absolutely there are.
Trying to get out of the inner city, trying to have a better life for their kids. No different than us. So, but if they don't have heroes and they don't have they don't think they have a chance, or there's drugs and violence in their neighborhood. They're going to end up joining the party.
Well, we see a lot of joining the party happening around town, and it's not just in Minneapolis anymore.
No, I know. It's just awful.
It's St. Paul. Malls all over the Twin Cities have closed today. Targets all around the Twin Cities have closed today.
Yeah.
I mean, Target didn't even close for the coronavirus.
Yeah. Yeah, this will get them to close, though.
But, I mean, you bring this up, though, about this one party thing. And we look at Minnesota, and I hate that this gets political. I mean, I really do. It is that party that tends to make it political.
Yeah.
That, sure, it is a tragedy what happened, and it should never happen. Justice needs to be swift, but it needs to be thorough. And Mr. Floyd needs to have his
justice
to what degree he can have it, being on the other side of this life. I'm going to say that flat out. But you get the people automatically, they just started coming out of the woodwork after this, where you had Amy Klobuchar start talking about it. You had Tina Smith start talking about it. The governor started mentioning it. All of these people come out of the woodwork. Where were you for the 800 plus people that died in long-term care facilities because of COVID? Where were you?
Well, they were making a plan.
Where were you? Standing with the families who lost mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles, grandparents. Where were you? No, you come out because this is politically expedient for you. This is your constituency, in air quotes. These are your people. These are the people that you need to get votes from, so you're there. Somebody dies in a long-term care facility, you don't care, because who's going to stand up for them? Who's going to remember them except for their immediate families? What group of elderly Minnesotans do you see rioting in the street demanding justice? None. So you're not going to stand up for them because it's not politically expedient for you. But where were you? Senator Klobuchar? Senator Smith? Where were you?
Well, we know what Klobuchar was doing. Auditioning to be vice president.
Ellison, Walz, where have you been? This is your state, and you're here all of the time.
Not to mention our commissioner of health.
We are the worst state in this country for long-term care. And over 800 elderly have died in these places. And you have nurses and other medical folk who are getting sick in these places as well. And where have you been?
I can relate. I'm married to one.
Where have you been?
They've been getting a plan together to implement in 2078.
They didn't need a plan to come out on day one of after this happened.
Yeah, wasn't it?
They were lining up to side with the African American community.
And it wasn't.
Where have you been?
Wasn't it foreseeable too that a nursing home it could go through like you wouldn't believe?
Yeah.
I mean that should have been obvious from the beginning.
Should have been.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. I just want to go back to the 200 troops. I mean, I'm just going to call it at some point it's going to become a shooting war. I mean,
it could. I hope it doesn't.
I hope so, too.
I really hope it doesn't.
But it's escalated already to the point where I don't know what's going to stop.
There have been shots fired. Mortars are being fired. I don't mean military mortars, fireworks. You see things being thrown, rocks and bottles and cans and bricks.
Where are the arrests, by the way?
They're not going to happen.
I mean, people are going in. They're on camera stealing TVs, stealing bottles of Jack Daniels, stealing jewelry. There was a jewelry store that got hit really hard.
Yeah.
Some of these stores, by the way, have been closed for a long time.
Yeah.
They probably just opened up. And now...
Exactly. These are independent
hope they got good
owners
insurance.
that have not been able to be in business because the governor said they couldn't be. Now they can be, and you shut them back down. I'm sure the governor's happy about that because now there's less COVID going around with those small stores closed again.
Well, I think we might have some break. If we don't have any breakouts from this, we need to open immediately.
Absolutely.
I mean, seriously.
What a great point that is. It's like, if we don't see a spike in numbers after all of this, then we need to open it all up. That's just nuts.
Well, I'm just... Let me ask a question like this.
Yeah.
What is leaders... I'm a believer, and I get in trouble for saying this sometimes, but I believe leadership is a quality that is... and decisiveness is a tough quality to teach somebody. I mean, you kind of have it or you don't have it.
Right.
But it says a lot when you have a mayor and a governor who can squelch something. They can stop something. They could have done something 2 days ago. And they're like a deer in headlights when things happen.
Yeah.
Or they're purposely, and here's what I fear. I fear that they are reluctant to... it's like the episode we did about where we talked about how enforcing the law has somehow become racist or unfair or unequal or systematic or something like that. I mean, what is with this reluctance to... I'm not saying go pull out machine guns and go shoot everybody. I'm not saying that. I'm saying... Like you said, why isn't everybody in riot gear? Why aren't people being arrested? Why aren't, why aren't the people caught on film being hunted down and prosecuted?
Yeah.
Why is that not happening? You don't do that, you guarantee this will continue because then there's no consequences for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is going on? What would possess? If I were the mayor of a place and somebody was tearing down my town, I'd probably be out there fighting them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea that we're going to hold back, go hide in a corner. I don't know where French Frey, a little twerp, I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
Walz, he hasn't been out of the St. Paul in 3 months. He's just in an underground bunker somewhere, writing up executive orders. And so I don't know that you have leaders that are capable of this. You don't have a Rudy Giuliani here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a Ronald Reagan here. There's not a, for the lack of a better comparison, an Andrew Jackson here. They're just, I know that would piss you off.
Yeah.
So, there isn't a Harry Truman here. There's not a hang on, I'm going to and actually it's up to the county attorney to bring charges to somebody, by the way.
Yeah.
Not the mayor, not the governor. I'm sure the attorney general will have a role in it, even though he shouldn't, unless Mike Freeman does something absurd, and I can't see that happening. I mean, This is going to be an they're going to be charged. They're going to be arrested. They may be gathering some evidence right now, questioning them. I don't know. I'm sure they are. I'm sure the police unions and stuff are... There's a procedure to follow with this, and I know they've been fired, but I'm sure that'll get appealed. But there's a duty to ensure that process, and I don't want to say keep law and order because again, I support the right to protest peaceably. I support freedom of speech on social media, on print media, on blogs, on TV. Everybody has a right to give their opinion or express it, to watch these things, but I think to sit here and watch and we become an embarrassment to the country to sit there and we're leading the news every night where our governor and the mayor and everybody is asleep. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. I'm just embarrassed. Right
Yes.
now. It's like I live in Michigan. It's just, I mean, I don't even want to turn the news on.
But
I don't want to anyway.
But we have to. I mean, and especially us, because, we do it so that maybe you don't have to. but
That's why sometimes I stomach the Sunday shows. I don't want my audience. I don't want our audience to have to, Jay.
I don't know if there's any reason for that. But it has gotten crazy. I mean, just a couple more updates.
Okay.
Port of Minneapolis and Washington report of topless white female in distress inside a vehicle with 3 black males. So according to that, rape is now okay, I guess. Rioters shining lasers at helicopters. That will become murder if those helicopters crash. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
The State Patrol strike teams moving in. So I guess they're pulling back. That's great. Trader Joe's at Paul section has burned down.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. And if you're downtown, get out of downtown. If you're in downtown, granted, if you're in your high-rise buildings, you're probably safe, but maybe not.
They start on fire.
Downtown section is split into 4 groups: 3rd in Washington, 4th in Nicollet, 5th in Hennepin, 1st Precinct. So,
how far are we from? I would hate to see this, but is the president going to have to take action here?
I don't. At what point?
Well, I mean, look, you can't look. President Trump can't let this happen either.
No,
you can't sit back and watch an entire state just.
There is a point where it's legal for him in uprising,
yes,
to send troops. That is the only time it is actually allowed, when there is an uprising. I don't want it.
I don't either, but I think
it's a dangerous precedent.
It is. I mean, did it happen in 1992?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't know if President Bush did something. President Bush Sr. I don't.
I was pretty young.
What are you talking about? You were 53 at that time.
Jeez.
What are you talking about? I don't know. I mean, it might. I know President Trump has been hesitant to send troops anywhere, and I've enjoyed that as a citizen rather than having a warmonger.
Right.
And I don't know who he would send in. Would he send in the special forces? Would he send in Marines? I mean, and again, you do that, how quickly before there's an open, never-ending shooting match?
Yeah. It's already starting. I mean, officers being shot by multiple paintball shooters. Hey, wise guys, that's going to turn to live ammo at some point.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stop it.
I mean, imagine you're a police officer and you
don't know
shots.
what you're getting shot with.
No, you don't have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. So we sit here and we're, I don't know, kind of dumbfounded. I mean, we've never seen anything quite like this in Minnesota. I could tell you the warning signs as I've seen them with some of these blocking freeways and garbage like that over the past couple of summers.
It was bound to happen.
It was. We were starting back with Occupy Wall Street and then coming and where they just, take over an area. And then it spilled out into the streets.
It ceases being a protest and it becomes a free-for-all.
Yeah.
So you think Jackson and Sharpton are going to quiet everything down?
No.
No,
they're going to.
They're here to taint the media coverage and taint the potential jury. I mean, that's what they're here to do. Jackson leaving Hymietown. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're going to. That's all you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I honestly have been disappointed in. Again, a lot of the some politicians on both sides have spoke out. Betty McCollum is one who probably the only one on the left side I've seen really condemn the violence and stuff.
Yeah.
the right has been strangely kind of silent as well.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of surprised at that. I'm disappointed how many people are trying to justify this. I can understand emotions running high. I can understand. I can understand the life in the inner city or the fear of the. I can't understand that, and I don't try to. I don't try to pretend that I get that, but to in any way condone what's going on guarantees it will keep happening. And I guarantee you, anybody who sits out in Wayzata or sits out in Elk River and talks about how these protests are justified, I'd like to ask you a few questions. What if the bricks and stuff were thrown through your house? You know, what if your kid was working at the Target that got, pummeled? Mm-hmm. What if it was your business that got, what if it was your mom or dad sitting on a wheelchair, people got pushed over? Mm-hmm. You probably take your pompous attitude and shove it. So, to people doing that, I mean, that's just unacceptable. That's almost as bad as the riot itself, because it guarantees that it will keep happening and never end. So,
yeah.
The bottom line is, boy, do we need new leaders. Do we really need? I don't care who they are. Almost. Well, I do.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, the right people.
Yeah.
And I mean, for the governor to watch the two biggest cities go up in flames before he does anything.
Yeah.
And tweet out a bunch of snowflake garbage. Luckily for us, he's getting lambasted pretty hard. But it's incompetence to a level that I don't know that I can explain.
Right.
So, and I'll tell you what, for the Minneapolis police, I mean, they've had some black eyes. This is another one. And, mm-hmm. This kind of behavior is, to say it's unacceptable, it's not unacceptable, it's criminal. I mean, what I witnessed on that video was criminal.
I don't know the law. It's definitely egregious. It is definitely over the top. Whether it breaks a law, I can't tell you, but I can tell you I don't like it.
Yeah,
I can tell you I think there needs to be discipline of some kind, that if he didn't break a law, he definitely needs to be disciplined by the police department, and firing is only the first step.
Yeah, we should let the legal process play out. It's slow. It's meant to be.
Right.
That's to protect all of our rights, though.
Right. And it's like they were saying in the press conference today, that it is because they rushed through some of these previous ones that convictions didn't happen, because there was such a push to get this through, to get convictions, that they didn't have everything they needed to be able to make those people go away.
Well, I can only go by the Muhammad Noor verdict, where,
right.
I mean, he was not convicted of murder. Different set of circumstances, I guess, but I mean, I've said before, a murder conviction is not going to be easy to obtain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, premeditation and proving all of that is going to be very hard. And ultimately, I'm not sure a court, can come up with a verdict that's going to satisfy everybody. I mean, that's unfortunately just,
yeah.
That's just, the system is what it is. But I mean, it's just a sad thing. I mean, it's to see your hometown and everything. Well, Minneapolis is my hometown, but close enough.
Right.
Leading the news, to see us getting made fun of, to see people going, what the hell's going on there? Why, people living in fear of where it's going to come next, has to be stopped. It just has to be. And I think ultimately it's not going to happen without some dead bodies.
And we're not advocating for that.
I
want to be clear about that. That is what is going to be the consequence if this doesn't stop.
But what do? Disperse.
Right.
Stop. I'm going to warn you for the 10th time.
Well, and that's the thing. They
Some
just
point,
stand there.
Some
It's
point,
like,
there's a red line that you cross or you don't.
no, I mean
What happens?
you can't arrest everybody, but you start firing tear gas. You use the loud noises. They have these.
They've been firing tear gas, though. It has. Question how effective it's been. Again, I'm not advocating for machine guns.
Start arresting some people. You know,
They have to be arrested. They just have to be, and you got to go after these people who are on these videos. I mean, we just have to.
If we can figure out who they are, you know.
Well, they could figure out who I am on a video, so I'm going to assume
with the mask. I mean, and that's another great decision. Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go out with. Don't you be caught in Minneapolis without a mask.
Yeah, and of course, mayor was willing to jail anybody without a mask.
Yeah, so how about jailing some people with some masks now, huh? How about that? how about prosecuting an actual crime? You know, like burning down a city. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it.
If I can make another prognostication that I hope I'm wrong on, nobody gets arrested.
It's probably too late for that. I would imagine there are very small numbers, but I don't know. From what I've seen, police officers are pretty much just standing down, and they're.
Why are they there?
They're using.
Why not go have a donut?
Well, like I reported earlier, the 3rd precinct is under assault. You allow those people to get in there. How many firearms do you have in there? How many flashbangs, tear gas, keys to some of the more.
If you don't defend the precinct,
vehicles.
You might as well just fire every police officer, go home, and let them run the city.
Well, isn't that...
That's sort of what's happening.
I mean, do you remember that press conference Betsy Hodges had when she was mayor? And
I try to forget them.
This one was great. I mean, kind of.
I probably don't.
But it was after one of those deals where they took to the highway and blocked the highway. Actually, like they're doing now, they're reporting 1,500 people entered 35W. So that's great. She had a press conference, and the press conference got taken over by the protesters. And she left, and they continued the press conference, and the protesters just.
But what is it? What is it with? I mean, are they so weak? Are they so scared to offend? I mean, you know what? When your city is getting rioted, who cares if you offend somebody?
Yeah.
I mean, really, are they that conditioned that they can't say anything bad? Anything naughty, that they're just going to sit there and let the frickin' place burn down?
And it's spreading. I mean, Camden liquor now being breached and looted, so it's getting into northeast Minneapolis.
Inevitable.
It's inevitable.
It's not being contained anywhere, so
might
as well just let it keep going.
And there have been rumors, and again, we don't deal in rumors in this, but I want to ask you. How likely do you think this is that protesters have been shipped in from other places?
Oh, I would say that is a mathematical certainty.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think that most of them probably are not, but I do think that there are people inciting that. I think every time these things happen, there's a group of professional agitators, you want to call it that?
Yeah.
Seem to be behind, whether that's Antifa, whether it's Black Lives Matter. I'm sure they have their local people here doing that stuff too. But I'm sure I would say the odds in that are 100% that people are coming from other places. Now, that might not happen now if things get... But things have to get quelched for that to stop. Because here's the thing: if you see that nothing's happening from a law enforcement view, you're just inviting anybody who wants to come here and make this ground zero for everything that you think you're wronged. Then that's what's going to happen.
Exactly. And I'm going to say that, like you said, I don't believe most of them are imported, because we have a ton of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Occupy Wall Street people here. We don't necessarily need a lot of help, but because we have let this fester for so long and haven't dealt with it. 10 seconds ago, third precinct ordered to evacuate being invaded. Another report says third precinct has fallen. I sure hope they got the firearms out of there. I hope they took away access to all of the military grade stuff that the Minneapolis Fire Department, Minneapolis Police Department has been investing in. Luckily, I haven't heard anything about over at Hennepin County, because I know that Sheriff Stanek had invested in quite a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's kept downtown or if that's up at a different facility.
Well, they probably have it spread out everywhere. Just guessing.
Right. So we just lost a police station.
So they didn't defend the police station; they just let them take over.
Yep.
Well, that's just wonderful.
Granted, I'm not watching any of this. I don't know how it's going down, but you would think that the people who have more force would be able to defend. But it sounds like they're being given orders just to maintain and back up, and it's what I saw with the bikes. Give the police officers bikes and then defend yourself. It's a shame.
Well, you know what? I hate to say it, but I think the feds are going to have to come in here. I mean,
we'll
what's
see.
the alternative?
I don't know.
Put us on lockdown again?
It's still only Thursday. Well, and that's the thing. Could this be used to say you all need to stay in your homes?
In Minneapolis and St. Paul, sure.
Yeah.
Maybe not everywhere else, but suburbs are not going to do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everywhere else, yeah.
I mean, unless the governor just says we're going back into shutdown.
Nobody will buy it.
I think that's part of the problem, though, too, is people have been cooped up for so long. People haven't been working. There's an agitation in the air.
Yeah, there is.
I'm more
I'm
agitated.
I know. I am, too.
People out on the road are agitated.
Yeah. They're sick of it. No doubt about it.
They are sick and tired of this.
Yeah, and that's something not taken into account.
And like that doesn't have anything to do with this either.
I'm sure it does.
Absolutely. So you can chalk that up to another one of your accomplishments, Governor Walz.
Yeah, simmering. You talk about the pot simmering.
Yes.
If I hear that again, I'm liable to take the pot and dump it on his head. But, I mean, this is another smoldering, simmering thing. People have been cooped up. They've been living in fear. And now they're living in twice as much fear.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, and again, a lot of that falls at the feet of the governor, who has mismanaged it from the beginning. So, Jay, we could follow this all night.
We could.
And I'm sure it's to be continued. I hope and pray that this is somehow put down or squelched or dealt with, and I don't know what the right adjective is to use.
An insurrection needs to be put down.
Yeah,
yes.
and I don't see it happening without sort of open, without shots being fired. I don't see how it's going to happen, but
yeah, and I
hope
want
not.
that. I don't want that. I don't think either of us want
that. No, I mean, it could make it worse for all we know, but. The idea that the chief of police would say, yeah, it's too dangerous for police.
This is what I'm worried about. Because we're seeing like mini versions of this in some of the other cities coming in support of what's going on here. And it's early in the summer. we just started, and I think the atmosphere is ripe for a civil war right now, unfortunately, with people losing employment, people losing their businesses, people being kept inside, seeing it, all it takes is a spark like this to ignite, and I'm sorry, pun not intended, but to ignite the fires of civil unrest. And that's what we've seen. It's a perfect cocktail. It's everything coming together into just people don't know what to do anymore. And we've lost our bearing. We've lost our way. I should probably save that for the end.
Well, and I don't know that we've lost. Why are we're looking to government to do something, and maybe it's up to us to defend our own neighborhoods. And I hate to put it that way, but it may come to that where you got to defend your own house. Period.
Yep.
And you're either going to do it or you're going to cower in fear.
I'll do it.
You knock on my front door, and I'm not going to cower.
No.
So you might get me. I'd rather die free than live as a slave. So.
Yep.
Anyway, Jay, it's that time again.
Cheery show, huh, guys?
Yeah, isn't that fun? Who knows how much will change in the next, few weeks and stuff. I hope a lot.
Yeah.
But once again, the sign-off sermon this week, from our not so underground layer because we have windows here. Jay, the sign-off sermon. Ready, begin.
Where do I even start?
Well, it's always best to start at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know. There comes a time when the world that you're living in seems on the precipice of change. We've been seeing that over and over and over the past few years, and the events seem to get closer together and more volatile. We're at a point in America where we're having police stations overrun and destroyed. This isn't the country I remember. This isn't. These are not the principles I grew up with. These are not the people that I thought Americans were. Good, honest, hardworking people that wanted to help their neighbors, love their families, and help their communities. I don't even know what to make of this. I don't know what sense can be made of this. Yeah, what happened to George Floyd is reprehensible. There is no reason that should ever happen. Nobody should die in police care unless the life of a police officer is threatened. But what do you have now? Riots in the streets, things being thrown at police officers. You have police stations and precincts being overrun. You think the lives of police officers aren't threatened now? Where are we headed, America? Who are we? And we can sit back and we can blame Governor Walz. We can sit back and we can blame Klobuchar, and we can blame Tina Smith, and we can blame Ilhan Omar. We can blame AOC. We can blame Jackson and Sharpton, and we can blame all these other people. We can blame the rioters. We can blame this person. We can blame that person. But is that who we are? People who just point the finger and say, I had nothing to do with that. Guess what? You did. I know that's some harsh language, and I'm sorry. Yes, I love our listeners. I love each and every one of you. But I'm sorry, there's a little come to Jesus moment. Because good people are not standing, evil men are triumphing. I know, you've heard that quote from Edmund Burke a million times, and it just kind of gets to be, okay, it's that quote again. But you're seeing it right in front of your eyes. Who's ready to stand up yet? Who is ready to sacrifice a little comfort for a whole lot of freedom? Who is ready to sacrifice a little comfort to see some normalcy brought back to our state, our country? Because let me tell you, there are a whole lot of evil men and women, a lot of bad actors that would like nothing more than to see America as we know it become a distant memory. That was a nice try, that whole capitalism and freedom thing. I'm glad that it only took 230 plus years to take it down. We can't let it fall. We cannot let it fall. Granted, not everybody joined the Revolutionary War, but enough of them stood up that they turned the tide and sent the British home. Not everybody got involved in the Civil War, but guess what? Enough people stood up that they ended slavery and they put the South back in their place. And because of that, we have a whole lot more free men and women walking around today. Not everybody went and fought in World War II. But enough people did that we saved a whole ethnic group of people that were being killed systemically from the Nazi regime. And we have seen socialism, communism, kill 100 million people across the face of this earth. And we're still trying to implement this form of government? It wouldn't have a chance if most of us stood up. If we decided, no, not in my country, not in my state, not my county, not in my city, not in my school district, not in my soil and water conservation district, not in my watershed district, not in any of it. Not on my park board, not on my planning commission, none of it. All it takes is 2% of the people in this state to do something. 2%. And we can't even manage that. We like our comfort. We like our fishing, our golfing, watching movies at night with the family, having a grill out. Hey, that's all awesome stuff. It's great. It is. And we need to invest into our families. We need to, because that's where the next generation gets those ideals from. But if you choose comfort over liberty, then we're done. Let's just hang it up now. Let's hand over the reins. Let's tell the communists, you won. Let's tell the rioters, the anarchists, you won. I hope that you have a better go of it than we did. It's your turn. You on board with that plan? Because I'm not. I am not going to leave the ship while it's sinking. I'm going to be patching holes like crazy. I'm going to be turning on the bilge pumps. I'm going to be doing what I can do, what I feel I was made to do. And that's inspire and educate and train and give strategies to people just like you to stand up, who are sick and tired and will say no more. All those other things are fine in moderation. But the time has come for sacrifice. We are at that juncture. Sacrifice or lose it all. Where are you at? If you have not put your name in the ring yet to run for office in your city, in your school district, in your county, in your soil and water conservation district, anything, sheriff, county attorney, whatever is open, hospital board, whatever is open in your area, if you are sitting on the sidelines, time has come. You have, from the day of this recording, another 5 days. Next Tuesday, June 2nd, that choice gets taken from you. And you are left to vote for whoever stepped up. Good, bad, indifferent. So what you going to do? What are you going to do? The moment of decision is here. Are we saving America, or are we're just going to say we had a good run? Get a hold of us. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That's COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. We want to help. That is what we do. That is what we do, and we want this state to change. We don't want this. We don't want all of this going up in flames. We don't want people hurt. We don't want people dying. We don't want this. If you're in outstate Minnesota, hey, this is affecting you too. You may not be here where things are getting destroyed like in front of your eyes, but behind the scenes they are. The green initiatives are going in. The taxes are being raised. All of it's happening behind your back. And if you're not here voting with us, socialism will come to this state. So the time is now. The time has come for every Minnesotan to make that decision. I'm in or I'm out. It's that simple. I don't know, Andrew, you in?
Huh? Oh, yeah, all the way.
So
Twins all the way.
That was convincing. My goodness. Oh, boy.
I'm so in, you're going to have to stop me twice.
Love it. All right, guys. That was, I don't know, that's the best I got today. I'm truly sad looking out and seeing what's happening to my city. And yes, all of the Twin Cities. This is my city. You're going to have to come through me to take the whole thing. I may not go out there and do something foolish, but I'm doing my part. Now it's up to you to do yours. Because we've done our part, Minnesota. We love you. But now it's your turn to get to work.